Hey friend, Roger Christopherson here again with another first listen review. And there was not a whole lot of new releases coming out this week that I could babble about, but there were several like reissues and deluxe and remasters and things like that coming out. There's actually quite a few that kind of piqued my interest. And one that always does the trick for me is UFO, and for whatever reason the past 2 or 3 years they've been just popping up all over the place. I know Cleopatra did a whole bunch of reissues of bootlegs and stuff that I already had different titles, so they're being pretty, I don't want to say too much about that, but anyway, this one is actually a remaster and a re-release of stuff that I had already heard, but you can't go wrong with UFO. I mean, you know, that's why I always like to see these things and I think, well, that's something I definitely want to check out again, because in the case of this one in particular, I had not listened to this one in quite some time. You know, their more popular albums, especially the stuff with Shankar on it, gets a lot of attention. I had just picked up the Misdemeanor reissue a while back, and they just did a week or two ago, I can't remember now, they had the tour, like I can't remember if it was the first time on CD or not. I kind of lose track of all this stuff. There's like so much music out there, I actually do lose track. But anyway, we're not talking about that stuff right now. We're talking about No Place to Run. This is the first album, I believe, with Paul Chapman on it. I could be mistaken there, but I'm pretty sure this is the first one with him actually as a member of the band. He had played with them, filling in for Shankar on tour and stuff, and then Shankar came back, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first one he recorded with them after that. And you know, it's got a little different sound, you know, than the other. This isn't quite as raw as their earlier stuff, and I think that has a lot to do with who they chose to go with for for producing this one, who I had actually forgotten produced this, is George Martin. Seems like a little odd choice to me, but I mean, they had the stature at this point in time for sure to, you know, demand somebody of that stature to produce their album. However, the style that he has in producing is a lot more, by this point anyway, was a lot more clean and precise, and I have to agree that the original release of this, and probably is why that didn't get as much attention, although it did make it all the way to, and I did do a little looking up on this because I want to know what I was talking about a little bit more on this one, because I don't usually do any research at all. This was actually made up to number 11 on the UK charts, so it did pretty good. I mean, but it's not one that you hear mentioned a lot, which is kind of bad, because after listening to this again, it's a pretty good album. I mean, the songs are still there. It definitely has a different feel for sure. I mean, Michael Shankar has his own style of playing. I don't know of anybody that sounds like him. He's one of these guys, when he plays and you hear the solos especially kick in, he just has a sound. I believe that the sound of guitar players, you know, for a lot of really talented ones anyway, that it's in their fingers. So you could give them any guitar, but somehow it's just the way they play and the sound itself like just emulates from their body into the guitar. That's like one of those instruments that I just really just love listening to so much, because like guitar players like Shankar just tend to do that. Now, that's not saying Chapman is any slouch at all, because especially after listening to the live bonus disc on here, this dude can play. So it was really fun, you know, listening to this anyway. It's like, I'm not gonna go through every single song, because this song, or this, you know, album's one that any UFO fan really probably knows. I think Youngblood was like the big hit off of this one, which, you know, when you listen to the album as a whole, you can see why that one kind of stands out. It's a little bit more memorable than some of the other ones. You know, as far as just, you know, ear candy, it just kind of sticking. But there's some other stuff that's on here that's pretty cool. I like, you know, it's got this intro on it, which I could have done without. I don't, you know, bands like intros. Most of the time I could not really I could skip them. I don't know. A lot of bands like the intros. I don't know if most of the time they don't add a whole lot. This is just one of those ones that didn't add a whole lot. But once it kicked into Letting Go, that was good. And Mystery Train, though, it's a good way to start an album. Really rocking sounding songs. And there's a couple weak ones in the middle there, which some people may like. Like Gone in the Night was just kind of a little bit of an one for me. But I guess really that's the only one. Money's cool, and it ends with a nice little song called Any Day. So it's not an extremely long album, but that's the way things were back in those days, and I kind of like that now more than I used to. I remember when albums started, CDs especially first started to become popular, and albums started really becoming very long. And I was always into it's more music for your money. However, sometimes sitting down listening to that much music all at once is a lot to digest. Nowadays, the 45-minute albums is kind of refreshing again. Kind of makes me appreciate just the thought and, even sacrifice that goes into some of the, leaving some stuff off. The thought that goes in and the running order of an album. This one just kind of reminded me of that. So that was kind of cool. I mean, a different way of looking at things, I guess, when you're doing a review. It's a shorter album in today's terms anyway, but I've noticed a lot of albums are getting closer to the 30-minute mark, which I don't know, that's a little bit too short for me. I don't know what people think about that, but this one's, I think, the perfect running time. And then, of course, we got the Live at the Marquee in London as added on. This one's been bootlegged a few different times. I know I have this one already, but this one has actually been remixed and remastered as well. It was actually really, really well done. It doesn't sound like it's in a smaller venue. It actually sounds big. And the one thing I liked about, this one is you got a couple little extra songs in there that you wouldn't normally hear. Like Cherry was in there, which I don't know as I've heard that one too many times on any of the other live stuff I have. And of course, the stuff from this album was thrown because it's the one they're promoting at the time, like Mystery Train was on there. But the one thing I really was interested in, because Love to Love is one of my favorite UFO songs, so it's always interesting to hear how each guitar player that's been in the band plays this song, because they never, especially the intro part of it, they never seem to play it the same. Like, they all have their intricate, different way of playing it, and this was no different. It didn't sound like Shanker at all playing this one, even though it's just a rhythm at the beginning of it. Everybody plays it different for some reason. And Paul is no different. He added his own little flavor to it. So I thought that was interesting. I'm not going to say whether I liked it better or worse than Shanker, because I'm a huge Shanker fan, as you probably couldn't already tell. So it's kind of unfair for anybody else coming in playing this for me to judge too much. But I did really enjoy listening to this again. I don't think I had to listen to this one in a very long time either. I kind of skipped over talking about the remaster, actually. I did notice with the remaster that in comparison to the original, the guitars were a little bit more up front. Now, Phil's vocals were always up front in the original, and they are on this one still. There's a little bit more low end on this one, and the drums and the bass, it makes it a little bit fuller. So in that aspect, I think I like this one actually better. I don't usually say that about remasters and stuff, but whatever they did kind of brought some of the guitar to the forefront a little bit more. However, because of the way it was produced, George really liked really good takes, really clean takes. So which in this particular band, I think it loses a little bit of the rawness and a little bit of the energy. So that being said, I think it still doesn't have that raw energy like the earlier stuff had. It's not a bad album at all. It's just it's produced so well that it kind of loses some of that energy, which is that's the way it is, I guess. But that's just my opinion on it. Some people may disagree. A lot of people tend to disagree. It's fine. We all have our own opinions. That's what this is all about. Just chit-chatting about what we think, and it's just kind of like sitting around, throwing our opinions at each other, and it's that's all it is. So anyway, it's just good to have fun talking about UFO, because why not? It's one of those awesome bands that I still love, And every time they do one of these things, it kind of excites me and gets me in the mood to listen to even more UFO, which is probably what I'm going to do, which is always a good sign that I enjoyed this, which I did. So anyway, if anybody has anything they want to share, I know I'm really babbling on this one, but that's what I do. I warn you from the start, I babble. So anyway, like, share, and subscribe to keep this music alive, because I'm really eager to hear what they're going to put out next. I know they're not doing any new stuff. Phil's kind of put the band to rest, but if they're going to keep digging up stuff, maybe they'll find some hidden gems here and there, and I'm going to be ready and waiting in line when they do. But until then, we'll see you.